Splendid occasion, beautiful venue. I was going to make a sarcastic comment about the rain, but that got ruined. I have known the Ruth family for pretty much my entire life. And I would just like to say to Mr. and Mrs. Ruth, what a personal treasure it is to be able to play a part in such a special day for your family. Thank you. To the Calora family, who I am really just beginning to know. There have been engagement parties, there have been bachelor parties, there have been rehearsal parties. All such tremendous events because you are surrounded by this warm, welcoming family. I think the biggest thing that I learned about the Calora family, I learned from Matt. Where's Matt? Matt showed me during the bachelor party that he is the kind of guy that I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with whenever I get stuck in the weeds. Now, as I said before, I have known the Ruth family for just about my whole life. Kevin and I have been best friends for over 20 years. And as Kevin's friend for over 20 years, I consider myself the expert on Kevin Ruth. I could have been the expert of a lot of things, but I am the expert on Kevin Ruth. And as the expert on Kevin Ruth, I would like to talk to you about two things that I consider him to be the master of. Oh yeah, there's only two. The first thing that Kevin is the master of can always be a little bit crazy and always be entertaining. Kevin has the ability to convince himself that he can perform feats that most people would consider impossible. And I'll give you one example. On more than one occasion, I've stood on a golf course with Kevin. 400 yards away from an elevated green, his ball buried in the rough. And I've watched him swing 2, 3, 4 times as hard as he can. Because in his mind, he can get there. Think about it. The second thing that I know Kevin to be the master of, I like to sum up in 2 words. Be there. Kevin has always been there. Kevin will always be there. He's been there for me. If you've known him long enough, he's been there for you. He's been there for his neighbors. He's been there for his friends. He's been there for his family. Hell, he's been there for my family. You could call Kevin up with anything. You need a ride to the airport? We'll be there. You need help moving? We'll be there. You need somebody to walk 5 miles to get a case of beer? We'll be there, and we'll come back with 2. I was there, I saw him do it. So this past year, I was forced to put Kevin's mantra of be there to a little bit of a test. See, every year we have this event that is basically focused around fantasy football, beer, and yard games. I call it the Man's Day, basically to cover up the fact that we spend the day behaving like children. Now I'm looking around the room now and I can see all the guys are looking at me saying, that sounds awesome. And it is. And all the girls are looking at me saying, gosh, men are so stupid. And we are. We really are. Well, this past year, the day that we all had picked, 9 out of the 10 of us, as the day for Man's Day, was the day that Kevin had told us months earlier that he couldn't do it because he was leaving for a very romantic vacation in Maryland with Christina. Okay, problem. As romantic as that vacation sounds, it's not Man's Day. So I had to go to Kevin and I had to have a conversation with him about Man's Day. Kevin, I need you to talk to Christina. I need you to express to her the importance of Man's Day. And he looked at me like, okay, let's see how this goes. But to no one's great shock, on Man's Day, he was there. Kevin was there. He will always be there. And my favorite part of Man's Day was during the wiffle ball game. That's right, the wiffle ball game. I was pitching, and there was a pop-up hit to my brother Dan, who's right over there. And the ball gets hung up in the wind in the trees, and it's bouncing around, and he missed it.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
And there's this blood-curdling scream from the outfield. Come on, Dan, get your head in the game! My first thought, of course, is when did my dad get here? But in actuality, the right fielder that day who was screaming and kicking dirt and cursing was not my dad, but it was our bride. And those of you who know how competitive Christina is, you're not surprised that he would be screaming about a pop-up in a wiffle ball game. And as she's kicking dirt and throwing a fit, I'm watching Kevin, and he had this look in his eyes like he's never loved her more. But Christina was there that day because she knew that it didn't matter to her, and it didn't matter to Kevin, whether their vacation started overlooking the Chesapeake at sunset, toasting with a glass of champagne, or rolling a bocce ball across my brother-in-law's backyard with an ice-cold Bud Light. As long as they could be there together, they would both be happy. And I dig that about you, kid. And that was the moment, I tell you, when I knew that these two were a match made in heaven. So with that thought in mind, I would ask you all to please raise your glasses with me as we toast to two of my favorite people. To Mr. and Mrs. Kevin Ruth, may you be there together for a lifetime.
Yeah. Cheers! All right, Drew.